Welcome to another episode of Culture Mavens. This is Rabbi Susan Nanus with my dear friend Tom Teicholz.
And hey, Susan.
Hey. So we wanted to recommend some things to distract you. And even though I guess, Tom, your first recommendation is a little bit on the somber side.
There are things that we have to remember even in difficult times. And November 9th will be the anniversary of Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, when in Nazi Germany and in Austria, people rioted in the streets and broke the windows and storefronts of Jewish stores and beat up Jewish storekeepers. And that doesn't seem like something so far away in time anymore. So on Monday night, Loyola Marymount University, LMU, is going to do a program called Voices of Hope, Acts of Kindness, with a senior historian reminding us that there were still some allies, even in darkest times. And on Tuesday, the Holocaust Museum LA is doing a program with Amy Bickel, Theodore Bickel's widow, who's doing a program about Theodore Bickel and City of Light, which I am assuming refers to Vienna. And so Amy is a very noted journalist, so that should be a moving and interesting program.
And she's devoted her life since he passed away to, promoting his music, his ideas, his films, and she's become a real keeper of the flame of Theodore Bickel, which he certainly deserves. On another note, the more that we report on Israel, the more I realize how incredibly cultured and what culture lovers Israelis are. So now, starting November 11th through the 14th, they're having a celebration of Beethoven's 250th birthday with a Pianos in Jerusalem festival, which is free. And they will be having the top performers, concert pianists and other musicians playing some of his best, all his music is best, some of his concertos, some of his symphonies. It's something that's going to be beautiful. And if you get to the website and it's in Hebrew, you just up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little American flag and it says EN, English. Click that and the whole thing goes into English.
Terrific. There's a really interesting article in the online magazine Mosaic, which generally is fairly conservative. But this is a very interesting article. About 30 years ago began the Russian immigration to Israel. And basically 1 million Russians moved to Israel at a time when Israel's population was less than 5 million. And so that at one point, I believe there were more violinists per capita in Israel than any other place in the world. So it's definitely a very cultured country. I wanted to point out 2 new books that were just released. One by Nicole Krauss, who has written novels like Forest Dark, which took place in Israel. She has a collection of short stories called To Be a Man, and she's a great writer. On the lighter side there's a nonfiction collection by David Sedaris.
I love David Sedaris, yeah.
Called The Best of Me. It's always entertaining, and so those are my 2 book recommendations.
Thank you. I just wanted to go back to Israel for a minute and remind people that this Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. is our second European journey. Our amazing tour guide who is broadcasting from Israel. And we did one already for Poland, and now we're going to Russia. It'll be St. Petersburg. And everybody really enjoyed it. So we hope you'll join us for that. I never saw the play What the Constitution Means to Me. Everybody was raving about it to me, and now it's on Amazon. They filmed it, and I watched some of the previews. I'm definitely going to watch it. It looks wonderful. It's a one-woman show with just a few other people coming in and out of it, but they even show the audience enjoying it so much. So it was a live performance that they filmed. So that's on Amazon. Now we're going to transition into Tom.
Yes. So the last few months have been times of increasing stress for all of us. And so in that light, I thought it would be fun and maybe helpful to talk about things we've been watching we just watch as guilty pleasures to take us away from the everyday problems. And I'm going to recommend Emily in Paris. It's written by Darren Star, who created Sex and the City, but it stars Lily Collins, and it has beautiful photography of Paris, and it's just enjoyable to watch. The other show that I've gotten great pleasure out of is an old show that ran from 2003 all the way to 2012 called New Tricks. And the premise is quite simple. A woman detective who had a bright career ahead of her in the Metropolitan London Police Department sort of spectacularly embarrasses herself, and she's allowed to hire a team of 3 retired detectives. And each of those retired detectives has their own quirks and problems and agendas. And I have to say, I am continually surprised episode to episode by how clever the crimes they are that they have to solve and the solution to them, and how the show deepens over time. So I'm really enjoying watching it.
Well, my guilty pleasure, and I say, I watched the whole thing in one day. I couldn't stop watching it, and it's a brand new series on Netflix called The Queen's Gambit, which is a chess move, and it follows the life of a little girl chess prodigy from age 9 until age 20 or 21, and it's eccentric and fascinating, and it reminds me of a John Irving novel. You remember how quirky the characters are? And I feel like
does a bear appear at some point? Because
there's no bear, but it's just she's so odd and interesting. It's set in the 1950s and 1960s, and we see the way people treated children then. And then, it's wonderful. And The Queen's Gambit, you won't be able to stop watching it.
That sounds great, and it certainly reminds me of the Jewish-Hungarian chess prodigy Judith Polgar.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so maybe it's in some part inspired by her.
No, completely different. She's in an orphanage. She has a horrible life. And chess is what saves her. It's a completely, it's much more odd and original.
Well, I look forward to watching it. All right. Well, that wraps up another week of Culture Mavens. I hope all of you de-stress, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.